Now, luckily for us, um, my brother can also be here on this one. He's going to be live over here. Hey, welcome to another episode of Collection Connection, the game that's just an excuse to talk about records with my brother. If you want to know more about how it works, you can read about it in the description, or you can click on the playlist at the end of the video for more episodes. So in his last video, my brother had chlamydia, and he showed an album that was loaded with semen. That right there. And so I gave it a listen. It seemed to be kind of a joke band, my understanding from what I read about them. So I was equating them with maybe a Bare Naked Ladies kind of thing. But since I don't speak Finnish, I was not in on the joke. So I don't necessarily have a whole lot to say about that album. But as I alluded to, the band is dressed up as sailors on the cover of the album. And so I thought my connection is an album where the band is dressed up as seafarers. And I'm pulling out the big guns here because this album is 1980s. There we go. Black Sea from XTC. And you can see they are dressed up as deep sea divers on the cover of the album there. And a little fun fact, in 1979 for the Drums and Wires album, they created one of the iconic album covers, of all time, using the letters of the band to kind of create a face. And they kept that actually going here, and it's really easy to overlook, but I'll show it here in a little overlay that they have the band name hidden in the backdrop of this album as well. And so Black Sea was produced by Steve Lillywhite and Hugh Padgham, who were coming in hot off of creating that big gated drum sound from Peter Gabriel 3. And you'll catch a lot of that kind of drum sound on songs like Paper and Iron and Travels in Nylon. And yeah, so it's a very heavy guitar sound. This is a lot of people's, who are XTC fans, a lot of people's favorite XTC album. And although I am partial myself to the era after they stopped touring, when they became strictly a studio band, those are when they made my favorite XTC albums. Nonetheless, Black Sea is a great record. And so they've never been, even in England, they're from England, they're from Swindon, England. This is Andy Partridge, Colin Moulding, and at the time of this album being made, Terry Chambers on drums and Dave Gregory on guitar, kind of the classic lineup after the first two albums, and they lost Barry Andrews from keyboards. They were never even in England like a chart phenom. They didn't score a ton of hits anywhere. They didn't really score any hits in the US. But as you know, Eric, we were living in England at the time that they were releasing some of these singles, like the singles from Black Sea. And so we knew songs like Generals and Majors, even if I didn't know that they were XTC at the time. It wasn't till I discovered XTC for myself around the time of Skylarking that I went back and found out that I knew some songs like Making Plans for Nigel and Generals and Majors and stuff like that, since it's working overtime. But this album had 4 singles, 2 Colin Moulding songs, Love at First Sight, what I think was maybe just a US single, and Generals and Majors. And those are the only 2 contributions Colin Moulding made to this album, which is unusual. I think that's his lowest song count. They generally split something more like 60-40, with Andy Partridge writing most of the songs and Colin Moulding writing the others. Though early on, Colin got a preponderance of the singles, I think, that stick in people's minds. He had maybe more of a knack for the single than did Andy Partridge. But the other 2 singles were Respectable Street, which opens the record, and Sergeant Rock is Gonna Help Me, which Andy kind of hates that he wrote, because it's an easily misinterpreted song, but I think it's a banger. I think it's underrated because it's seen as sort of cringy these days, and maybe even cringy. I think it was even seen as a little cringy back at the time, kind of anti-feminism. But that's only if you kind of overlook the joke that this guy just has no idea how to deal with women in the first place. Let's see. I think I used up my 5 minutes. I have more. There we go. More that I could say on XTC. They are one of my favorite bands, but I am confining this to the 5 minutes, so I will pass that on to you to make your connection, and look for that video on Monday, and I will see you next Thursday with my response to that. So with that, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.